Hello, everybody. My name is Kashawn Hopkins. I'm an instructional technology specialist from Oklahoma Public School Resource Center, and today I'm here to talk about Stormboard. It's very exciting. I'm also joined here with my colleague. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Kurt Bernhardt. I'm the technology director for OPSRC, and Kashawn and I make up the tech team.
Yeah. If you ever want to reach out to us, you can do so at techteam@opsrc.net right over here. Additionally, if you want to follow along and use some of the, so if you want to use any of these slides, I highly recommend you do. I put some goodies at the very end for anybody that wants to enjoy them. But there's the link we're going to put in the chat, and I'm going to read it off since it's case sensitive, just in case you want to type it up. So it's lowercase t period ly/3 uppercase LH6. So you have access to these slides. You're very welcome to follow along. For those who are unfamiliar with Stormboard, it is, I want to call it a project management tool, but I believe it's used for the classroom that you can use. It has a lot of wonderful features like sticky notes. You can add things in like images and videos, things like that. Very similar to Jamboard in a lot of different ways. But the thing that I think kind of takes this tool up to the next level in a way is that it has a lot of tools to make sure that students are a little more in control of getting on task, staying on task. They have like chat features in there. They have to-do lists. You can make assignments. You can have students assign tasks to other students. And so there's much more of a system in place to make sure that the management side is also taken care of. So that's kind of what drew me to the tool. Now, something to keep in mind that I should say at the front of this is that I definitely think this is a tool for more mature students, maybe 6 through 12 type of deal, maybe even older as well. But given my audience, yeah, 6 through 12 probably or high school. Kind of, you have to really fill out and say, is this tool worth it for my audience? Because I think this does require quite a bit of investment, and the free account also has some restrictions on it, which I'll talk about. But if you can get this to work, I feel like this can be a huge boon to your students because they have an idea of how to plan out their projects, what to do to keep the motivation up, how to make sure that you are focusing on the right task here and there. And so I think this is just really good in just giving your students these project management skills that I can help just provide a bit of that structure. So I would love to show an example of that. For the slides, for people just only can look at the slides, I have an example over here for a little bit later. But since whoever's here, you get to see kind of a live version of the thing that I was showing before. So here is an example, and it's not the only, you'll see a little bit later, one really nice thing about Stormboard is that they have tons of lovely little templates. So, but this is like a real basic, they call them storms, but basically it's just a collaborative space where you can get ideas and share them. Oh no, I think I've accidentally changed this template, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. You get the idea that you have these different sections here, and it gives people an idea of how are they going to break down the information. Students or whoever is using this can put in information through these little sticky notes here. I'll zoom in a little bigger so you can see them. And I can't remember what this, I think this was like a 3, maybe I can find the correct template that's on here. No. All templates, maybe. I know this was like a story template, so let me go. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself over here, but you can search through here. Or, oh, it was a 5-paragraph essay. That's what it was. Yeah, so I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit there. There we go, but that's okay. So I have, my introduction. Here's my hook statement. I have a couple of sticky notes that I'm putting on here. I have this connected to some images. Here's a lovely image. This is a essay about dogs. The thesis statement would be dogs are really talented and have won elections, saved people, and can provide support to humans. So, just trying to see how cool dogs are out there. And so you can do things like add videos. Here's a video over here that I can click on, and then I can play the video. I believe this is embedded. Yeah. So you can play this on here, which is kind of like a news story, or you can use it as kind of like a repository for information. I have like a PDF here. I have a Word document on here. I have a little index card just filled with a couple of ideas. All of this information is broken down into these little clean sections. So introduction, thesis, we got your body paragraphs here filled with bits of information, and then a nice little conclusion here. And I can see different connections on how all of this is going to be pieced together. Yeah, and I did mention, I think up here on the top right-hand corner, there's a little task list up here. So there's a list of like incomplete task or completed task or all task, and it shows like who is being assigned to what. So I'll jump more into the features, but I just want to give you a clear idea of what we're dealing with here. And that's not the only type of storm we have on here, but it is one of many examples that you can take advantage of. Okay, so what are we doing here? Just to give you a schedule, so I make sure that I stay on task here in the next 25 minutes that I get to share with you lovely people. First of all, I'll kind of go over my objective, talk a little bit about technology integration. I just think it's a good idea to lay that foundation now before we jump into the tool itself. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I always want to talk about kind of like what's the theory and the frameworks that I'm using as I'm going forward, or things that you should just definitely keep in mind as you're bringing a new tool into your classroom, you think about it. Next is I'm going to do an overview specifically about the tools and kind of justify why I picked this tool through the ISTE standards. And so there's a bit of that. I'm going to spend a majority of my time just talking, showing you how to go in the tool, join in, how to get your storm started, how to invite people in there. So I'll show you bits and pieces on how to get yourself started on here and how to get a classroom started. Then after that, I will move into tool applications. I'll invite you to imagine what your tool is going to look like in your classroom and give you a couple of suggestions of my own using kind of the models that I'll talk about in a bit. And then finally, I'll share some goodies with you in terms of like links that I think are going to be useful for you, share an evaluation link, and answer any questions that you might have. And that will be after this recording. So anyways, let's jump into it. First of all, my objective. After this training, teachers will be able to integrate Stormboard into their classroom to help students organize information and help them achieve their learning goals. Don't forget about this. I know sometimes technology can be really exciting and you put it in your classroom, it's a new novel thing. Sometimes it feels like it works, but don't forget the end result. What are you trying to achieve when you introduce technology in your classroom? Because it comes with a cost, be it a time and resources, or an emotional cost of like that anxiety of working through something that's entirely new and trying to tie it into something that you're trying to do, or something you're trying to accomplish. So always keep those learning goals in mind. Don't lose sight of question. One that I would personally recommend is the SAMR model. I think it's a popular model, and I think it's pretty straightforward to use. It kind of takes the different ways that you could use a piece of technology and breaks it down into these different levels, these different categories. And the lower that the further on that you get into these levels, and the more that levels that you try to apply, the more impactful that your piece of technology is going to be. Like, for example, at the lowest stages, we have substitution, which is you just using technology to substitute something you're already doing. Or the augmentation stage, right above that, you try to take advantage of some of the functions of the tool. The modification step is when you build a task entirely around that tool. And then finally, the redefinition stage, which is when you create a task that wouldn't previously exist without that tool. So I try to push people to get up here to the MR stages up here, because that's the transformational stage. That's when you start seeing those real impacting changes that will stem from bringing that piece of technology in there. But there is nothing wrong, I think, with starting here. It's all about comfort level. So if you do have to start at the substitution or augmentation stage, that is totally fine. Absolutely. It's just, you want to make sure that you're at least thinking about, and you have kind of a concrete plan on what you're trying to do here. And so I'm going to show you how to use this a little bit later. I also include on here, I've updated this section for anybody that's already listened to some of my tech talks, and you're probably eyes glazed over at this point. You're like, I've already heard about the SAMR model. I've updated this a little bit to include TPAC in here, which is another framework, and suggest you take a look at the technology integration matrix. I think those are also amazing models. But I'm hoping that me talking about the SAMR model doesn't dissuade you from using those other ones. Take a look and see what works for you, and apply what works. Okay, so let me focus in on the tool that you were here for, Stormboard. I call it a digital project management space. So it's a space where, you can get students to work together in small groups and collaborate, build knowledge, keep each other on task, just dealing with that kind of like motivational aspect of this. Different things it can do for your classroom. I think the list of templates is a really cool aspect of the Stormboard and is a great way to start out your projects. And if you are really into graphic organizers, which if you haven't been using them already, I highly recommend you take a look. Even if you just scroll through the templates just to see what's out there, you might already come up with some ideas and things you could do in your classroom right now, even without the Stormboard. So I think you should take a look. The sticky notes are really a great feature. It's how you build ideas. And you can put things like images, videos, files in there. So really nice multi-purpose sticky notes. We have pretty cool reports. It's kind of a shame that you only have a few reports in the free ones, but the free ones that are out there are really neat, and I'd love to show you them. And then you have commenting and voting features to make sure that people are staying engaged in the different parts of the storms. And then we have action boards. I call them action boards because it's things like they have a chat messaging board in there. You have an activity board so you can keep track of what everybody else is doing. And you have a task board to make sure that people if they're assigned a task, it's not just left to them. They have to say complete on there and it will be fed into a report. So it's pretty nice that you can do that. And then finally, where you can access it is, of course, stormboard.com, which I will go to. In fact, I'm already kind of over here, which I'm going to take one step back on that page, which we'll jump into that in a second. We'll do it into the showcase. But first, one little bit of justification. I feel like I always have to justify my tools in one way or another. And I do it through the ISTE standard. So I'm using the student ones on here. I'm sure you could find spaces that the educator ones can fit in, or you could probably fit these with other standards, but I picked 3 in this one. Kind of the main way that I think this tool applies, don't move that, is definitely a collaboration tool. This is a tool that you definitely want to put in your students' hands and have them kind of work together and try to figure out how to accomplish some kind of task. I can see this being used in kind of like a project-based learning scenario on here where they have something they have to accomplish together. And they will benefit from working together in those small groups there. So you can connect with learners, you can examine issues from multiple viewpoints, and you're working constructively with the team. So you're learning those different skills that comes with trying to make sure that you're working and building ideas with other students, with other people here. So definitely great skills to have. I also have some other standards on here, like the knowledge construction skill. I think them being able to curate information and make meaningful connections is really useful, and also being a creative communicator. This is a very visual tool. Like the fact that you have to build everything out of these sticky notes and organize them into this nice little structure. Some students have no earthly idea how to take notes, take good notes. Like instead of just like copying everything from the teacher, they're like, oh, I could probably just summarize this into kind of a main point here and make these connections, and I'm still good. And so I think this can help out a lot with that. So those are just a couple of ways that I think this tool is worth your time at least to consider, and hopefully showing you some things about Stormboard itself can further convince you. So I'll be back to these slides, but I'm going to switch to Stormboard. So I'm going to log out here just so I can start fresh. So on here, you can sign up. You have a free account that you can sign up on here, but I do want to show off the pricing thing, not because I want you to buy it, but because I want to show you kind of what your limitations are before we go in on this one. So I might lose some people on this one, but I want to make sure I'm very transparent. So this is not about you buying this other stuff. This is all about what's happening over here in the personal account. First of all, the limitation to keep in mind is that you can only have 5 open storms. So that means you can be a part of 5 separate groups on there. Now, you can delete storms and get those accounts, get them back, get your numbers on that. So please keep that in mind. Additionally, you can only have 5 users per storm, which is probably fine for a small group. If you're trying to break students down, that's probably a good amount anyway. If you're using Microsoft or Google tools, you won't be able to see the embedded versions of them. Because if you click on some of those items, you'll get a little slide up menu and it just will have the information there. Instead, students will have to like open the tool. Like if you put a Google document on there, instead of being able to read the Google Doc in the Stormboard, they would have to just click on whatever the Google Doc is and it'll open it up as a separate window and then they view it there. So there's a workaround for that as well. There's limitations on the reporting features, your access to 3 different types of reports, which I'll show in a bit. And there's some integrations. There's some lovely integrations for Slack, Teams, and Flow. Unfortunately, I won't be showing any of that. But it's pretty cool. So, and they also, they don't have it on here, but they won't have access to Teams or folders. So this is kind of like other organizational tools. So just getting that out of the way so people have that in mind. But I think the features that do come with personal accounts are quite useful. So if you sign in, you can get a personal account. But you know, if you're already using Google, Microsoft, there's even LinkedIn and Facebook, which is kind of weird to me, but it's there. So if you have like Google accounts already set up, this will work quite nicely. Like if you're already using things like Google Classroom, awesome. Things will be automatically set up for you, which is great. I'm going to cheat and log in. So give me a second, and I'm going to get myself in there. Yeah. Great. And I am here. So this is the dashboard. Whenever you're logged in, I believe you're given a couple of tooltips, so you're kind of shown around a little bit. One thing that I do think is kind of nice about Stormboard is the fact is they give a ton of support for first-time users and also users who just need reminders. Up here at the top of my screen, I see that there are 3 videos to help me through Stormboard basics, sticky notes, and templates. You've got those 3 things. You can do like 90% of everything that you want to do in Stormboard. So that way you don't have to waste too much time, you know, teaching students how to do certain things. You might want to point some things out to them so they know. But all the videos and stuff are up here and you can just have them kind of go through it and maybe do kind of like some checks of knowledge just to make sure, or have them practice. Something that I definitely say on my other tools, but give them an opportunity to play with this tool in kind of a structured scenario, like say, like go in, create a storm, like maybe have like a little checklist of things you want them to do after they watch these videos, just to make sure that they got it going. So a little bit of a recommendation for that. But from here, there's some things you can't do, like on the left-hand side, basically everything on this left-hand side you can ignore. This is all stuff that you would have to have in a paid count for. But what I am going to pay attention to is down here, I can see my previous storms, like the dog one and the test one that I did before. I'm going to click create storm in a minute, but something I did want to point out that I did mention before is I have 2 open storms right now. If I want to close one of them, I click on these 3 dots on the storm and click close storm. Now, a wonderful thing about this is not only that this gives you back one of those 5 storms that you have access to, but you can still read the storms. You just can't interact with it on here. If I switch to show closed storms on here, so if I click show open storms and switch it to closed storms, it will give me that as a read only. So keep that in mind. You can at least get this back and play around the limitations there. Okay. I'm going to click plus create a storm. You're going to have to give it a couple of things like a name. So I'm going to say Tech Talks Example Storm, something like that. You don't really have a choice on this next one, but it's a personal storm. It just reminds you can only have up to 5 users, and it shows you how many storms you're currently using. So this will be my second storm. You can start with the basic storm, which is basically section 1, 2, and 3. And you fill information in there. Probably not a bad idea for first-time users. I say that because I'm about to click choose a template and show you how many options there are. It is fantastic. This is worth the price of admission right here. Is the templates here. They have very standard ones like Agile, Scrum, Kanban type ones. We have roadmaps, and you can just scroll through action brainstorming, 6 thinking hacks, just getting stuff done templates. So this is worth scrolling through and maybe finding a few, the SWOT template, the 5 whys template. Just as great, just scrolling through and just stealing ideas for graphic organizers or giving people practice on organizers. And in fact, on the left-hand side, you can see it broken down into categories. We got blank templates, we got matrix templates, we got calendars, shapes, icebreaker templates, for fun questions. You can get real crazy with this stuff. And then we have use cases. It's broken down on here. We have teams. I recommend doing education because this tool is used as kind of, it's a project management tool in a way. But if you go on education, you can go in things like character maps, conflict maps, compare and contrast, 5-paragraph essay that I've used, and then the different frameworks down here. So that's worth going through. Now, some things I want to point out, and I'm trying to make sure I'm not going over time. Great, 10 minutes still. Like, for example, you can see that this 5-paragraph essay outline has a guide. It says that on the message right here. So I'll show you what that is, but I just wanted to point that out. And also you can click where it says include sample content. So when someone uses and sees that template, they can see how it can be possibly used through like an actual example. And if you click on this little, it might be a little hard to see, so maybe see if I can zoom in about messing this up. Yeah. If you see this little I symbol, this information symbol right next to the name of the template, it will show you kind of the framework of it. You can see the 5-paragraph essay looks like an introduction at top, thesis, 3 body paragraphs, conclusion. Awesome. Let's say that's what I want, and I click choose template. Great. So if that's what I want, this is what I get here. And if I want to, I can always go to the bottom of my screen, click on templates, and make a switch on the fly. That's great. But one really cool thing that I do want to show about templates, I'm going to keep gushing about it, is at the top right-hand part of my screen, there is a guide button. I can click on the guide button, gives me a little slide out and gives me a little breakdown. It says, hey, this is what guides are about. It's a step-by-step kind of process here. You follow the directions basically, and once you click got it, it gets you started. So I'm going to click got it. And here is an introduction. It gives me an idea of why would you use this 5-paragraph essay outline, gives you a little bit of idea of how the template's done. And then I'm going through each process. I'm going to go through and say, okay, why do I need an introduction? It gives you some information for that. Why do I need a thesis? Why do I need these body paragraphs? So it's about explaining the whys and just walking through every single step on building through these and then building out these guides. So they're, by the end of this guide, it fills it in. You've had something, at least some kind of information, each one of these pieces, so they know how the graphic organizers work. And I think that right there is also worth the price of admission, just being able to explain, okay, this is the stuff that's here. Here's the structure in place, but just getting them to think like, what could this structure be used for? What are the different pieces? How does this all get placed together in here? So yeah, take advantage of the templates, take advantage of the guides if they exist. Okay, how am I doing on time? 8 minutes. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm not going over because this is it's so robust. I think it's so easy to get lost here. Okay, I definitely want to talk about adding content into a storm. You can rearrange these content areas on here to navigate around. You just click on any of the empty space and click and drag on here. Additionally, on the top right-hand corner, you can click and drag the plus and minus symbol to zoom in and out. And you can see on the framework here, on the preview, you can click and move this around so you can get a kind of a fuller view and navigate around that. So definitely have students kind of play around with it. It was a little weird for me to try to get used to just being able to move things around and put things where you want to put them. On the bottom left-hand corner, the green lovely button, you can click add content to the storm here. This is all of the different things that you can add in here. So of course, you got your little basic text on here. You can even change the color if you'd like. So if I want a nice little blue sticky note with some nonsense on here, great. I can click and say add idea. And then it gives me a little sticky note that I can click and drag and move around to these different sections, or I can click on the sticky note itself and make some adjustments here. Like if I want to change the shape of it, I can. If I want to change the size of it, no problem. If I want to change the color, that's great. And there's even some buttons on here I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see, or I can leave a comment on here. I can vote if there's like a bunch of ideas, and we're going to explore a bunch of different things, but maybe we need to focus on certain things. Or I can click this little check mark symbol and assign a task, which is really nice. So this, if anybody's connected to your Storm, if you're like, hey, we need a better picture for this, and you want to assign it to someone that you know is good at pictures, you can do that and even give them a nice little due date. That way, when they go up to their task menu in the top right-hand corner, you see that I got a little notification. I can see that I have a task that is incomplete that I need to take care of. And I can click on it, and it takes me straight to that part of the Stormboard. So that's where the project management motivation part starts coming in there. Other things you can add, there is an interactive whiteboard on here that's real time, that saves automatically. So you click start a new whiteboard, and you're just given the space where you can play around. Please, please, please build in time for your students to just come in here and frolic around and try to figure out what are the different things that you can do in here, because they got pen tools, they got highlight tools, they got erasers. They got undo redo buttons. You can add in text, images, shapes, all sorts of little things to play with. And it turns that all of these items will turn into a sticky note. So they can expand and collapse, save space and all that. You got images on here. You can pull things locally, or you can pull things from like Dropbox or Google Drive, OneDrive, any of that. Just keep in mind, like I said before, the files themselves, like you can open them like they're links, but there's no way to read them like and embed it, like have everything all in the Stormboard without, you know, having to go somewhere else. And then finally, we got index cards on here. We can put a bunch of ideas, or file where you can just dump any old file like a PDF or something in there if there's something that needs to be shared. Okay. Oh my. Wow. Okay, cool. I'm going to click on one thing you definitely need to know, which is invite users. I'm going to click on this, and you can invite users in 3 different ways, either through a link. You could share a unique Stormboard ID and key, or you could share it through email. Not a problem. And remember, the limitation is that you can only have 5 people in here, 1 out of 5. You can see if you're ever going to hit that limitation. And there's so many great things that I wish I could talk about on here. But I am going to pass for right now. And gosh, I probably need to make this an extended one, but we'll see. We'll see how we have here. Okay. Let's wrap some things up in a little bow here. I have some applications here. I'll run through them real quick. I'm using the SAMR model, so just a couple of ideas and ways that you can integrate this in your classroom. Like, for example, you could use those templates to teach graphic organizers. In the augmentation stage, you can have students take notes and have it just kind of be a multimedia experience where they have images, videos, and they make connections between a bunch of ideas. In the modification step, you can have students brainstorm and share ideas in small groups, take advantage of those sticky notes so everybody is sharing their ideas. Or at the redefinition stage, have them run through a project, have them plan their steps, have them communicate with each other regularly, have them stay on task using those assignments. And I wish I could have showed up with the timer on there as well, just to make sure that students are taking in every part of a project and making sure, can they get from the start and can they get to the end? And you are kind of like helping moderate and facilitate their use of those different tools there. All right, that's 2 minutes. I just want to share, I have a page of Stormboard goodies. It is woefully empty. I will admit, I actually had trouble finding resources on there. So I challenge anybody that's listening to this, help make some more open resources for Stormboard. I think it's a great tool. Yeah, I found some stuff, but it's mostly like Stormboard things and reviews, which I think is great. Like if you want to revisit anything that I've talked about, or a bunch of stuff that I wasn't able to talk about, take a look at those first 2 links. I think they're really useful. Over here, I've also made some updates on, I'm calling this the technology integration goodies page, because I not only want SAMR model on here, I have TPAC and the technology integration matrix that I think is quite useful. So please take a look through any of those resources. Keep in mind, whenever you're introducing a piece of technology in your classroom, have a plan and have an idea of what type of results that you want. And then finally, this page right over here, Big, huge thank you. Thank you so much for coming into this one. I could go all day talking about Stormboard, but I'm gonna push the brake on this one for right now. Please, if you have an opportunity, go and fill out this evaluation. It means so much. I've read a couple of these evaluations on here, and it means so much to see people going in there and filling out and seeing some of the results there. So this is lowercase t period ly / lowercase ggz as in zebra, uppercase K. And this evaluation shouldn't take long. I'm Kushan Hopkins, joined here with Kurt Bernhardt, our technology director. Together we make the technology team, and you can reach us at techteam@opsrc.net. I have a link to the slides, but I recommend you check out opsrc.net/techtalks, our page dedicated to these wonderful things that I've been doing. We got Stormboard on here. We'll have some stuff in the next unit that I'm going to do. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to suggest, you can suggest a future tech tool. We have a nice little button for that. And we have our other tech talks, a nice little treasure trove of goodies down there. So you can either enjoy that yourself or you can share it with others. So I highly recommend that you do that. But for right now, I want to drop one last thanks and say, have a great day. All right, take any questions.